up, everybody? This is your boy, Teran Rodriguez, bringing you another edition of Set Point. And as always, we have ourselves a jam-packed show as we have a lot of volleyball to discuss, such as John Cook retiring after 25 seasons of Nebraska women's volleyball. Who replaced him? And what were some other NCAA women's volleyball transactions in terms of coaching? Also, how about Hawaii pulling off not one but two wins on the road in Provo against BYU? Are the Bows for real? Also, how about Lincoln Memorial pulling off the only upset that happened last week in general, against Harvard? Will the Rail Splitters imitate their success against UC San Diego? And also, the big showdown is this weekend with number 3 UCLA taking on number 1 Long Beach State. Also, have some pro volleyball to discuss with LOVB and CBS. So hand me a volleyball. That's the next. Remember us to get some volleyball action here on Set Point. This is Teran Rodriguez bringing you another edition of Set Point here on iSports Radio. Your direct feed for all that is sports. And welcome welcome all to another edition of Set Point. Thank you all for joining me on this beautiful Monday afternoon, Monday evening, Monday, wherever you are listening from. Either way, you've made your way to episode 284 of Set Point. And without any further delay, let us begin. But first and foremost, Set Point would not be where it's at without iSports Radio providing the platform to go live on StreamYard. Please do follow us on X, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, as well as subscribe to us on YouTube. We would definitely appreciate it. We're trying to reach at least 400 subscribers by the time the Super Bowl rolls around. And with your help, we can get to that because we're right around that number. So definitely do subscribe to us on YouTube if you enjoy this sort of thing. Also, make sure to check us out on other podcast platforms such as Spreaker, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. The list goes on and on. Also, make sure to check us out on our website, iesportsradio.com, for all of your latest sports news, our blog, our pages dedicated to each podcast, such as Set Point, the merchandise shop where you can cop t-shirts, tank tops, hoodies, and so much more. Also, make sure to check out our blog as well and all sorts of features on our website. For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports stages around the country. Thank you to everyone for all of your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that sports. A huge shout out to our sponsors, Planet Jerky, Premium Brisket Beef Jerky, Seal the Deal Wax Seals, Vital Apparel, and Raw Nutrition Supplements. So without any further delay, let's get into what our sponsors are all about, and then we'll turn it back to the show.
Hi, eSports Radio fans. This show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, single-A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all-brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
rise and shine. It's 4 a.m. The stars are still out. The sun is beneath the horizon, but it's time to punch in and go to work. The comfort of your warm-ups turns into the grinding out of your reps as the clinking and the clanking of the plates create a symphony of euphoria. There's no other feeling like it. Earn it, burn it, and take what's yours. IE Sports Radio has proudly partnered with Vital Apparel, a brand that not only fits great, but also promotes and donates to mental health research. Use our code IESR to get 15% off their comfortable and inspiring gym wear and help them on their amazing journey to support mental health. Go hard, take part in your iron therapy, and be strong. Because when your mental health is as strong as you are, there's no telling how far you'll go.
Hey there, IE Sports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the IE Sports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at IE Sports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
That is right, everybody. Definitely check out all of our amazing sponsors and also check out iesportsradio.com. Also, we have one more sponsor, as I mentioned before. Our newest and most recent sponsor is Raw Nutrition Supplements. Use the code IESR to get 10% off your purchase. So thank you to Raw Nutrition Supplements for being a sponsor of IE Sports Radio. And the way you can follow SetPoint on social media is on X, formerly known as Twitter, at set_point IE. And on Instagram at set_point IESR. And you can follow me, the host, personally on X, formerly known as Twitter as well, at Teran Rodriguez 1. And without any further delay, let's get on into it. So we're going to switch things up. We're actually going to talk some NCAA women's volleyball news. And this was the news that set the entire volleyball world on fire. Nebraska head coach John Cook retiring after 25 seasons coaching the Huskers. So he did sign an extension all the way to 2029, but since he chose to retire, that extension is now null and void. So, look, this was unexpected in terms of what I was expecting. But if you all were paying attention to LOVB, you saw that Danny Busboom Kelly was in attendance in the Omaha match from the previous week before John Cook had retired. So I thought John Cook retiring was huge news indeed. I was very shocked at this. I was perplexed by this. I don't think anybody saw this coming from a mile away. So to say this was a shocker is an understatement. So all in all, for Nebraska, I think this was definitely a big shocker. And I will say this, I wish I could have gotten the opportunity to meet John Cook in person. Unfortunately, he just never came around to coming to Southern California. Obviously, his team's not going to be playing the likes of UC Irvine or Long Beach State, unless it's at Nebraska. But his team didn't get a chance to play at USC, which really sucks. I bet you they're going to be playing at USC this upcoming season. So I really wish I could have definitely gotten to meet John Cook in person. But hopefully I will meet him sometime down the road. I was going to make it a point to try to go to that first serve showcase that's going to be hosted by Nebraska. But it looks like I'm not going to be able to meet John Cook. But John Cook had an amazing tenure as Nebraska's head coach. Whether it was with the Big 12 or the Big 10, he turned the Huskers into a powerhouse, winning 4 national championships and so many other plethora of awards. And honestly, he should be in the Coaching Hall of Fame or Volleyball Coaching Hall of Fame. I think he was a fantastic coach, and one of the reasons why he did want to call it a career in terms of coaching is because he wanted to spend time with his grandchildren, and that's totally understandable. And the first person he told was Harper Murray. And if you don't know the story with Harper Murray, she's been through an emotional roller coaster, not just on the volleyball court, but in terms of off the court. So all in all, it was a lot of big news to fathom. And honestly, I was just shocked by this. Everyone was just shocked and just their jaws dropped, and everyone was wondering who's going to be the new head coach. But one coach did come to mind. But all in all, I did enjoy John Cook turning Nebraska into a powerhouse. It does not mean Nebraska's going to be taking a step back. Yes, they lost quite a bit to graduation, such as Teran Rodriguez and Merritt Beeson and Harper Murray. Well, that doesn't mean Nebraska's going anywhere. They've got a lot of good players that returned from last year's team, and they also got some good recruits coming in. So I'm really liking the chances of what Nebraska can do next season because, let's be honest, this team is definitely going to be a wagon, and Nebraska is never not going to be dominant. Unless, of course, they have such a down year, they get hit hard in terms of graduation in the transfer portal, that sort of thing. So all in all, I think this is going to be a little bit of some getting used to not seeing John Cook. But honestly, I think the program is in greater hands for their next head coach, which is perfect segue to go into who Nebraska just recently hired following the retirement of John Cook. They hired Nebraska alum Danny Busboom Kelly. So you know what? I'm actually going to try to get this in the color red. I actually do want to get this in the color red just because I feel bad for putting all of this in blue. But I am a blue type of guy. So, nope, that ain't it. Yeah, hold on. Let's see if I can get this to being red. There we go. That's as good as it'll get in terms of red. But Nebraska's new head volleyball coach is Danny Busboom Kelly, which was the former Louisville head coach. Now I say former because she resigned from her position to take the Nebraska job. So you're probably wondering, well, why would she leave one program which was definitely successful and that just went to the national championship just to go to another perennial strong program? Well, for starters, Danny Busboom Kelly is an alum of Nebraska. I want to say she won a national championship with the Huskers back when she played, which I'm 99.999999999% sure that is correct. But Danny Busboom Kelly, the reason why she was in Omaha for the LOVB Omaha match is because she was getting ready to take the reins over. And John Cook did mention to the team first that he was going to retire and that Danny Busboom Kelly was going to be taking over. And Danny Busboom Kelly she held nothing back. She made a great first impression, and everyone in the team loved her. They loved her to an extent, and I think she's going to do great things when it comes to that program. And it's great that Nebraska hired a person that is familiar with the program and that's an alum instead of like conducting a national search. I think that is so crucial. That is so key right there. So I think for Nebraska, they're in great hands in terms of having Danny Busman-Kelly as head coach. And I think she's going to do wonders for that program just because I think she is a fantastic coach. She led Louisville to the national championship 2 times in the past 3 seasons, which I definitely think is huge. Got to have that championship pedigree. Got to have that pedigree of making the NCAA tournament and being a perennial powerhouse in your conference. But now she transitions from the ACC over to the Big Ten, which, in my opinion, is a definite bloodbath. There's not going to be there's not going to be too many easy matches in the Big Ten for her. But you saw what Nebraska did. They took everyone's best shot for the most part and just dealt it right back to them. The only team that unfortunately got the better of them was Penn State, which eventually got the better of them in the semifinals all the way to the national championship. But Danny Busman-Kelly is a fantastic hire. Was it tough for her to leave Louisville? Yes, but she knew that she wanted to take this program by the reins. Like, I don't know who else they would have hired in terms of possibly taking over the head coaching position as head coach of the women's volleyball team following John Cook's retirement. Like, who would they hire? I mean, another coach that would have probably came to my mind would be Jalen Reyes, but I don't know if he wants to take the reins for a head coaching position in terms of the indoor women's team. I want to say he's still coaching the beach team, but that's more so of the off-season. That's more of an off-season team. It's not really an NCAA women's beach volleyball team in terms of that sort of thing. Like, if they win a game, it's okay. We won a game. So I think for Danny Busman-Kelly, she gets to coach her dream job after she was an alum of the school, leading Nebraska to a national championship. I want to say she was the libero for the team, the libero or the defensive specialist. But regardless, Danny Busman-Kelly is back home, and there is going to be a press conference introducing Danny Busman-Kelly as head coach on Thursday at the Bob at 2 p.m. Central Time. So, I wish I could be in Nebraska, but unfortunately that is not the case. And this is being recorded on a Monday. So this Thursday, definitely do check it out if you're in the Nebraska area. Get to the Bob, and I definitely hope y'all can check out Danny Busman-Kelly being introduced as the head coach. I sure wish I could be there in person to ask her questions and interview her, but it is what it is. So that's going to basically do it for that bit of news. So you're probably wondering, well, if Danny Busman-Kelly left Louisville for Nebraska, then who's going to be taking over Louisville's job? So Louisville just recently hired Dan Meskey as their new head coach for their women's volleyball team. So for those that don't know, Dan Meskey is definitely a notable name just because he has been part of the program. He was part of the program for Louisville as the associate head coach. So now he is the new head coach, which I think is really awesome. And his resume definitely speaks to high volumes. And he actually got introduced today, which was streamed on Louisville's X account. So, and there were actually some positive comments from this. So Anna DeBeer said, Dan's one of the most hardworking coaches I've ever had and is always finding ways to improve himself every day. That's just a quick paraphrase. That's just a quick quote right there. And then Anna Stevenson Hall, who is a member of the U.S. national team, she said, Dan is such a great teacher and a leader, and for sure the best coach I've had. I still call him today for help with my game or advice in general. That's nice. That's really good. Coming from an Olympian, that's huge right there. And then Amaya Tillman, All-American from Louisville, she said, anyone who has been part of Louisville volleyball knows how incredible Dan is as a coach and leader. He sees the game like no other college coach or no other coach in college volleyball, and his ability to develop players both on and off the court has shaped countless All-Americans. So there's that from Amaya Tillman. This isn't the full quote. And then Tori Dilferstringer, the setter for Columbus Fury, she said, I can't think of anyone better than Dan Meskey to lead the University of Louisville volleyball program and continue to build a legacy of greatness. Anyone that has been part of this program in the last 8 years knows that Dan has poured his heart and soul into its success and will continue to do so. All right, so that definitely checks out in terms of him being a good hire. I think he is a fantastic hire. And then other players and other people are saying this is a great hire, such as Eric Sullivan, who is the newly hired women's national team coach. He says, no one is more deserving of this position than Dan. I've had the privilege of working with him and know what a phenomenal coach he is. He'll fill that role perfectly. And then Pete Hansen, Ohio State's head men's volleyball coach from 1989 all the way to 2019, said, the University of Louisville women's volleyball program will be in great hands with the hiring of Dan Meskey. Dan is a superb coach and has outstanding character. And then this is from Katie George, as well as Kirsten Bernthal Booth. George says, Dan Meskey is a brilliant volleyball mind and an excellent teacher. His ability to communicate and put together tactical strategy is in part why Louisville volleyball climbed the national ranks during Danny Busman Kelly's tenure as head coach. Keeping Meskey in Louisville is a no-brainer. The Cardinals are in extremely talented hands. And then Booth said, I'm pumped for Dan Meskey to take over Louisville volleyball. Dan's been a winner at every program that he's been a part of, and I have no doubt he will continue this as head coach. And then Paul Sunderland, former All-American, ESPN volleyball commentator, said, and gold medalist, said, I've known and worked with Coach Meskey for several years. Let me just say that he is an elite and tremendous choice. Louisville has set the bar very high on the volleyball court, and they will not skip a beat with Dan as their head coach. And then Lee Feinswang, the editor of 900 Square Feet or Volleyball Magazine, said, Dan is not only well-liked in our sport, but extremely well-respected for his technical knowledge and hard work. We all know what a huge part of Louisville's success that he has been, and it's great for volleyball that he will become a head coach. And I agree. So looking at all that and looking at his resume, I definitely think that he is the best choice to hire as head coach for Louisville women's volleyball. And you got to keep it within the program. If you're hiring someone that's like out of the blue, that doesn't have familiarity, then it's kind of a disadvantage and it kind of drives some of the players away. But I think with this hire, this is going to be something special, something fantastic. I do really want to pull up his resume just because he is okay. So here's his resume. So with Louisville's had 17 NCAA tournament appearances, 8 ACC titles or conference titles, 4 national semifinals appearances, and 2 national runner-up finishes or appearances in the national championship. And he was also named 2022 AVCA National Assistant Coach of the Year, which I think was fantabulistic. So there you have it right there. I definitely think that Dan Meskey is a fantastic hire, and everyone giving him their blessing is definitely proof that this is definitely a good hire, and that they're not just hiring someone off the street or someone out of the program. Like Louisville worked very quick just because people didn't know what to expect when it came to this. The people didn't know what to expect with Louisville, and they didn't know who was going to be the one to take over. But Dan Meskey is the man in terms of taking over the program, and I think Dan is a fantastic replacement for Danny Busman Kelly, who was underneath the coaching tree of Danny Busman Kelly, who was also underneath the coaching tree of John Cook. So I think, in my opinion, Dan Meskey will do wonders for Louisville, which means there won't be any national coaching searches, which is definitely a good thing. And I definitely think that is fantastic for Louisville. Both programs worked really quick in terms of hiring the replacements. Like that Wednesday night, we had John Cook retiring, and then everyone was wondering, well, who's going to be taking over or who's going to be entering the transfer portal and whatnot. Well, Danny Busman Kelly is taking over, and I'm 99.999% certain that none of the players from Nebraska are going to be entering the transfer portal. I would be stunned if someone from Nebraska entered the transfer portal because of the departure of John Cook or the retirement of John Cook. And then Louisville also worked really quick in terms of hiring Danny Busman Kelly or hiring the replacement for Danny Busman Kelly. I'm guessing because she knew that she was going to Omaha or Nebraska to be the replacement for John Cook. Louisville they were informed by Danny Busboom Kelly, or DBK, and then eventually she said, well, I'm going to be leaving and whatnot. So, and then Louisville had to spring into action, and they needed to see who was going to be taking over as head coach. And they saw Dan Meskey's resume, and they said, you know what? Let's hire Dan Meskey. He's the associate head coach. Let's promote him to head coach. And there you go. So both programs deserve props on working ever so quickly. And this news was so big that we even got a post from the NCAA Women's Volleyball X and Instagram account sooner than we got a post from the NCAA Men's Volleyball X and Instagram account regarding this season. I don't want to go into that rabbit hole. I'm just going to say I digress, and I'll save that for the NCAA Men's Volleyball portion of the show. So that's going to do it for my spiel of Louisville hiring their new head coach and Nebraska seeing the retirement of John Cook and then hiring Danny Busboom Kelly as the replacement. I will just say, God bless to John Cook. He was a fantastic coach. Again, my only regret with him is I wish I could have met him in person. I wish I could have interviewed him and picked his brain. But I know hopefully we will see one another sometime down the road, and I hope we can cross paths soon. I think he is a fantastic coach, and he did wonders for Nebraska. And heck, even other the past coach or previous coach, Terry Pettit, said that John Cook did a fantastic job. Everyone said that John Cook did a fantastic job. Even opposing coaches from opposing teams, like Kelly Sheffield from Wisconsin or Craig Skinner from Kentucky, or Kirsten Bernthal Booth from Creighton. So there you go. But yeah, God bless to John Cook. Enjoy retirement. Enjoy riding your horses on the cattle. Enjoy spending time with your grandkids. Nebraska women's volleyball is in good hands with Danny Busboom Kelly. And speaking of which, this was announced today that their assistant coaches, Kelly Hunter and Jalen Reyes, friend of the show, Set Point, they both have received contract extensions that will be until January 30th, 2026. So pretty much a new contract for 1 more year, which is common for assistant coaches. And that was courtesy of Lincoln R. Neal and the Volleyball State podcast. So got to throw that news out right there. I had the distinct honor, fun fact, of meeting Jalen Reyes when he took Nebraska's beach volleyball program to Long Beach for the Long Beach State Invitational, and that was pretty awesome meeting him. So they have it right there. That's going to do it for the NCAA women's volleyball portion of the show. Say hi real quick to Alden K, a.k.a. Always Arizona Sports. He says, have a good show, Teran. I appreciate you, good sir. Thank you for popping into the chat room, the live chat room. But that's going to do it for the NCAA women's volleyball portion of the show. We're going to take ourselves a quick commercial break. When we come back, we've got some NCAA men's volleyball to recap and preview. Then we also got some pro volleyball to discuss with LOVB and PVF. So keep it locked here. You're listening to Set Point here on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
Hello, ladies and sinners. Hello, sports fans around the world. Hello, IE Sports family. This is Cale Henderson, the host of IE Vegas, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio. If you folks are interested in sports in the Vegas area, if you're wanting to have a blast for 1 hour every Tuesday night from 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, this is a show built for the Vegas sports fans, where we feature the Las Vegas Raiders, the Las Vegas Golden Knights, the Las Vegas Aces, and the University of Las Vegas, Nevada Rebels. Hopefully, fingers crossed, MLB team coming soon. Either way, if you folks are looking to have a blast for 1 hour each and every week, tune in Tuesday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you folks are interested in Vegas sports news, go to our Twitter, at SinCities_IESR, and you can speak with me, the host, Cale Henderson, at Cale_Henderson on Twitter, at any time. Be happy to reply. always want to reach out to our fans. Again, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Sports fans, do you like teams that are tough, cities that are tougher, and fan bases that are passionate about their teams? How about teams that are historic and stadiums that are iconic? Then you belong in Chicago, and you need to check out Chi-Town Weekly. Join me, Adam Kernick, every week as we keep up with all things Chicago sports. Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks, Cubs, White Sox. We'll cover them all, plus more. The Windy City is always buzzing, and we'll keep you up on all the big games and major stories. So tune in to Chi-Town Weekly every week right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Back with segment number 2 of Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Definitely check out all of our amazing shows, such as Cincy Sports with Cale Henderson and Chi-Town Weekly with Adam Karnick. That will be coming on later on in the day, but I definitely recommend you should check those out. So without any further delay, let's get on into the second segment of the show. So now let's get on into the NCAA Men's Volleyball Week 5 recap. So this was a fantastic week, and another fantastic week of NCAA men's volleyball in the books. I thought this was a really fun week in terms of the NCAA men's volleyball season, and yeah, the whole thing pretty much started on the whole big time matches started on Thursday, but there's some other outlier matches in terms of the season. I mean, nothing too out of the ordinary and nothing too eye-popping. But there was one match that was unranked versus unranked that I was not expecting to see as a possible matchup, that I would have thought would have been a matchup. But yeah, looking at Tuesday's matchups, nothing too notable there. Monday was also a little quiet. Wednesday was also quiet, except UC Santa Barbara took down Concordia Irvine in straight sets. Jess Bianchi had 20 kills and 9 digs in that 3-set match. And then we also had USC sweeping Central State of Ohio. Contrary to what the website says, USC swept Central State. This website actually says that Central State beat USC, but that must be incorrect. Someone must have entered the wrong score. So, but USC's win over Central State actually was significant because it was actually USC's 900th win as a program. So congratulations to USC for, winning its 900th win in program history. And yeah, I have to do the fight on, and there were some balloons that came up. So perfect that actually showed up. But congratulations to USC on that accomplishment. And then we jump to Thursday. Then most people thought that Penn State UCLA played that night, but they actually played the night after. So the moral of this story, y'all got to actually look at the team's actual websites instead of just assuming the NCAA website is going to be accurate. As Brandon, the franchise luck, pops in, he says, "Have a great show." Thank you, Brandon, or franchise. But moral of the story, don't rely on the NCAA account or just go off of the actual schedules from the actual teams. That's what I learned. Anyway, so the only notable matchup we had on Thursday, I mean, there were some other good matches that we had. We had Queens taking down Catalba in 4. Just gotta say, whoever's the admin or the graphics designer for Catalba, you get an A+ for all of your graphics. Then we had Ball State taking out Tusculum, cooling them off after they had a fantastic week last week. And then we had this big matchup. Loyola Chicago taking down Pepperdine in 5 sets. It was a fantastic matchup between the Ramblers and the Waves. Ramblers took the first 2 sets. Waves took the next 2 sets. And then the 5th set was rather tight. It was just a back-and-forth matchup until Loyola Chicago just put it into high gear and eventually inched away with that 5th set win. Big night for players such as Daniel Fabakovic and Parker Van Buren. Also, this was a fun matchup just because brothers Jake Reed, who plays for Loyola Chicago, and Brendan Reed, who plays for Pepperdine, got to face one another. And I thought that was a really cool thing. Their parents also had Loyola and Pepperdine shirts just so they don't show bias towards one of the schools and favoritism towards one of the kids, but I digress. I kind of wish Jake Reed would have had a bigger night. He had 5 kills, but it is what it is. A lot of serving errors from both of these teams. Like Loyola Chicago had a whopping 37 service errors, but they still managed to win. And that the 37 service errors actually tied UCLA's record for most service errors in one match. And believe it or not, UCLA back in 2021 against USC was able to win that match. So just like that match, Loyola Chicago managed to beat Pepperdine despite missing 37 serves, which I thought was rather interesting and funny, if you ask me. That was the one thing that was keeping Pepperdine in this match, as Pepperdine was led by Cole Hartke, who had 24 kills. Ryan Barnett added 10 kills. So all in all, it was a fun match, but Loyola Chicago was able to pull out the win. A great win from the Ramblers, who remain undefeated. Shane Davis has done an outstanding job. And like I said in my takes for this upcoming season, could Loyola Chicago be a sneaky good team, or could they be a team that makes noise this season? I definitely think so, just because they've got lots of talent that they returned. Obviously, they know who their setter is. I foolishly thought that Cole Schobel was still on the team, but unfortunately for me, Cole transferred to UC Santa Barbara, and he's killing it there. All right, but that is that for Thursday's matchups. Jumping to Friday, we had the Big Ten Challenge with UCLA taking on Penn State. Now, UCLA-Penn State was closer than expected, but just like in the first point collegiate challenge, UCLA swept Penn State. And then we also had some other good match, and then we had that matchup. Big night for UCLA, even though they did not have one player cross double digits in terms of kills. But after the first set, which was a close set, UCLA kind of kicked it into high gear, and they were able to take their next 2 sets with not too much difficulty. And then the second match of the Big Ten Challenge, we had USC and UCLA taking on one another. USC took down Ohio State in 4 sets. As USC, they continue to remain on a roll. So great job to the Trojans after getting a big night from former set point guest Dylan Klein, who had 22 kills. He hit 700, only had 1 heating error, and he also had 5 blocks. Dylan Klein is the real deal, my dudes and dudettes, so definitely keep an eye on him. Also, we had some other notable matches. We had George Mason sweeping St. Thomas Aquinas. Now, you're probably wondering, well, why is that a notable matchup? Well, it actually marked George Mason's 15th straight home win, which actually is a program record for most consecutive wins at home. And this dates back to last season when they went 11-0, which I think is pretty cool right there. So a great feat for George Mason. You also had Ball State taking down Tusculum again. Lincoln Memorial pulled off the upset over number 19 Harvard in 5 sets. The Rail Splitters won the first 2 sets. Harvard won the next 2 sets. And then Lincoln Memorial just had enough in the tank to win that 5th set. You had Long Beach State taking down Fort Valley State in the Silver State Showdown. You had Princeton taking down Fairleigh Dickinson in the Battle of Jersey. You had Lewis taking down UC Santa Barbara in 4 sets on the road against UC Santa Barbara, which I thought was a very good matchup. You had UC Irvine, number 2 UC Irvine sweeping number 9 Stanford. You had Grand Canyon sweeping Belmont Abbey in the second Silver State Showdown match. And then you had the NAIA team, the Masters College, taking down Concordia Irvine in 4 sets. So, yeah, I'm going to be talking a little NAIA men's volleyball once the season fully gets underway. I know there's still some teams that are still playing, but I'm just going to say this right now. The Masters College is probably going to be an NCAA Division 1-2 men's volleyball team in a couple of years, maybe next year, just because the Masters College, they still find ways to beat NCAA men's volleyball teams in the NCAA Division 1-2 slot. So, yeah, I think for the Masters College, they're probably one of the favorites to win the NAIA championship. They're at least winning the Golden State Athletic Conference, because that is kind of a conference that's theirs to lose. No offense to the other teams. But we have to get into the big match and series of the week on Friday. Hawaii took on BYU in Provo. It had been a minute since these two teams faced one another. The last time these two teams faced one another in the regular season was before the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, and then also they faced one another in the national championship in the NCAA, or the National Collegiate Men's Volleyball Championship back in 2021 in Columbus at the Covalli Center. So first set, BYU took it 25-20, and then second set, BYU actually got off to a nice little lead, but Hawaii was able to turn the tide, take that second set 25-22. Third set, BYU inched away with that third set 25-23. And the fourth set, it was all Hawaii as they just steamrolled their way to winning set 4, 25-16. And then the craziest and maybe the longest fifth set happened between Hawaii and BYU. Hawaii faced 5 match points, they faced 5 match points from BYU, and they needed quite a bit of match points as well, but they were able to take advantage of the situation. They won the fifth set 22-20. Epic matchup. It was an epic match as Hawaii was led by Kristen Tatriski, who had 20 kills. Adrian Rohr added 12 kills. Ofek Hazan added 10 kills. Tread Rosenthal had 9 kills, 43 assists, 2 service aces, 6 digs, and 8 blocks. We also got to see Louis Sakanoko in action for what seemed to be like a good amount of playing time, as Louis had 8 kills and he had 3 digs as well. So good job to Louis Sakanoko for getting onto the court and seeing some valuable playing time. And then BYU was led by Keone Tim, facing his former team, by the way. He had 21 kills. Luke Benson added 17 kills. Tion Taylor and Talion Jonathan Tafuga both had 7 kills. And then Nico Hales, I really want to put him in my starting rotation. This is a spoiler alert. Unfortunately, he did not make my starting rotation of the week, which hopefully will get posted tomorrow. Unfortunately, I couldn't get it posted today due to reasons, but I digress. But Nico Hales had 6 kills on 6 swings. So in other words, he had a perfect 1,000. So mad props to Nico Hales. Unfortunately for BYU, they just could not pull out the win. They still missed quite a bit of number of serves. And it's unfortunate because BYU played some darn good volleyball and whatnot. But unfortunately for them, they just could not pull out the win. So that was that from last Friday's matches. And now we're already into February. Jiminy Christmas. So some notable matches that happened were Belmont Abbey took down Fort Valley State in 4 sets. You had CSUN take down St. Thomas Aquinas at George Mason. Loyola Chicago, this was a fun matchup. Number 7 Loyola Chicago took down number 15 UC San Diego in 5 sets. It was a very fun matchup where, just like before, the Ramblers had just enough in the tank to win that 5th set, as Loyola was led by Parker Van Buren, who had 17 kills. Daniel Fabakovic added 14 kills. Jake Reed, 12 kills. Brad Bell had 8 kills. Bell had 0 hitting errors on the weekend, so good for the middle right there. Anthony Sherfon led the way for UC San Diego with 21 kills. Josh Schellinger added 16 kills. Jim Garrison and Leo Provednikov both had 7 kills. Overall, a fantastic match. Keegan Cook also had 13 digs. But overall, it was a fantastic match by both teams. I was really impressed by how UC San Diego held their own. And I'm just going to say the Big West Conference is going to be one heck of a battle this but once Big West Conference play happens. So I think it's going to be very fun times. So we had that right there, and then we had Long Beach State taking down Belmont Abbey in straight sets in a rematch of last year's NCAA or National Collegiate Men's Volleyball Tournament. Got to remember that. Vernacular. And then Lincoln Memorial did not have a letdown after their win over Harvard as they took down St. Francis in 5 sets. Good for them. We also had day 2 of the Big Ten Challenge where USC took down Penn State in 4 sets. And then UCLA, number 3 UCLA, got their lick back against number 13 Ohio State as the Bruins took down the Buckeyes in 4 sets. So good job to the Bruins for getting their lick back. The MVP of the Big Ten Challenge was Andrew Rowan. The UCLA, I guess, with having won or having lost fewer sets, was able to win the entire challenge by default. I know USC and UCLA both went 2-0, but I guess they based this off of tiebreaker. And unfortunately, we were hoping to get Ohio State versus Penn State in men's volleyball, but it is what it is. Now, this was another fun matchup. Number 10, Pepperdine swept number 12, Lewis, at Stonehouse in 3 sets, which I thought was impressive. Cole Hartke had 11 kills. Jose Gomez, he made himself well known this week. He had 10 kills. Ryan Barnett added 9 kills. Max Oguz led Lewis with 9 kills. Max Roquet had 8 kills. Daniel Haber added 7 kills. But Pepperdine was just so strong. Jose Gomez also added 4 service aces. Hartke added 3 service aces. So it was a good match for Pepperdine. For Lewis, this was kind of a little bit of a 1 step forward and 5 steps back process. But I think Lewis should be ready for conference play, which actually begins this week. So, and then there was one more matchup this past weekend, and that was actually a conference matchup. So conference play actually did get underway, and that was Missouri S&T taking down Roosevelt. I know Roosevelt did play in terms of their college, in terms of their men's volleyball schedule, but they actually played in a conference match. I want to say it was against Rockwell University. It was either against Rockwell or Merrimack, but I do know that Roosevelt kicked off its conference play a little bit tough they did fall in 3 sets to Rockwell. Some people, I didn't even know that this was a conference match, but this was a conference match. Wait a minute. What? Hello? It was against Rockhurst. So not Merrimack. It was against Rockhurst where they wound up losing in 3 sets. So I don't know. This was according to the one they call Vinny Lopes, aka MPSF bias. So, or not MPSF bias, off the block. So yeah, that I don't know what to believe anymore when it comes to who played in conference play, but it is what it is. It is what it is, and I'm not going to make too big of a deal of it. So yeah, and then we had number 2 UC Irvine taking down Stanford in straight sets. UC Irvine has only lost 2 sets, and that was to BYU the previous week. So good job to UC Irvine. They're definitely looking like the role of a championship contender. And then Hawaii took down BYU in 4 sets, which actually marked the first time they had taken 2 matches in Provo, which I thought was very impressive. And that win actually marked former set point guest Charlie Wade's 300th win as head coach, which I thought was awesome sauce. Kristen Tatrisky led the way with 17 kills. Louis Sakanoko made himself really well known as he had 13 kills. Great to see Louis back in the lineup for Hawaii, let alone back in the rotation. So that was that for BYU, or for Hawaii. Tread Rosenthal had 2 kills, 42 assists, 2 service aces, and 4 digs and 4 blocks. For BYU, they were led by Keone Tim and Lucas Torres, both having 14 kills. Luke Benson was kind of held in check. He had 6 kills, but he had 6 errors as well. So the first two sets were pretty much all Hawaii, winning at 25-18, 25-22. You're probably thinking, well, why was that second set so close? Well, Hawaii was actually up quite a bit, and then BYU went on, I think it was an 8-0 run to get within 2 points, but then Hawaii was able to put the set away. And I will say, if you saw the stream on BYU TV, you will see that after that second set, Sean Olmstead was just perplexed and baffled by how his team played. So, yeah, it was a tough matchup. I mean, eventually BYU did take the third set, and then despite a late comeback from Hawaii, and then Hawaii took the fourth set to complete the series sweep over BYU. So great job to the Rainbow Warriors, and they're still undefeated. And like I said, this is a Hawaii team that no one wants to face come conference play. And those 2 wins could actually mean a difference for if they have to be an at-large team, because that Big West Conference is stacked. You got Long Beach State, UC Irvine, and Hawaii, who are all really darn good. And that is pretty much that for Saturday's matchups. And then Sunday we had number 16 CSUN taking on number 20 George Mason, where the Matadors took down said George Mason team in 4 sets. So that 15-game win streak from George Mason was very short-lived, unfortunately, as CSUN got the win on the road. So a nice win for CSUN. The first 3 sets were close, decided by 2 points, but then in the 4th set, CSUN just kicked it into overdrive and was able to do their damage right there and then. So there you have it right there for CSUN George Mason, and that's that for Week 5 of the NCAA men's volleyball season. So let's get on into that ABCA men's volleyball coaches poll. Top 4 remain the same. USC is catapulted into the top 5. They're now number 5. After switching spots with BYU, 7 through 12 remain the same. UC San Diego had the biggest rise, jumping up to number 13, jumping up 2 spots. Lincoln Memorial, out of the IVA, the Independent Volleyball Association, they are in the top 20 after beating Harvard, which moved out of the top 20. And then pretty much everything stayed the same. No one rise too much other than UC San Diego. And then no one fell too much. So there's that right there for the ABCA top 20 from the season, as you see from the ticker down below. So that's that right there. So there is no off-the-block media poll for this week. So just a reminder of last week's poll: Long Beach State, UC Irvine, UCLA, Hawaii, BYU, USC, Loyola Chicago, Ball State, Stanford, and Pepperdine. And here's who I voted for last week. Okay, that's it. But like I said, no off-the-block media poll for this week, as Vinny Lopes of Off the Block, the one that runs it, he has a little bit of a family trip, but he will be back next week for us to get a new off-the-block media poll. So I'll keep you all informed regarding that. So that is that right there for NCAA men's volleyball week 5. Now let's jump on into NCAA men's volleyball week 6. So week 6 is already officially underway, but there's no matches tonight. So tomorrow, the notable matches we have are Lincoln Memorial taking on UC San Diego, or number 19 Lincoln Memorial taking on number 13 UC San Diego. The Rail Splitters are undefeated. I guess I should throw that out there as well. But they face a very talented UC San Diego team on the road. Can they continue their winning ways against the Tritons? And can the Tritons bounce back after suffering a tough 5-set loss to Loyola Chicago? I think it's doable. But we shall see. And then on Wednesday, Lincoln Memorial plays Concordia Irvine. Lindenwood takes on Lewis in MIVA action. Even though I think Lindenwood isn't as good as they were even though Lindenwood wasn't as good as they were last year, I think Lindenwood can maybe challenge Lewis. Lewis is obviously coming off of that tough 3-set loss to Pepperdine, but they can only get up off the mat, because if they don't, then they're going to be up a creek without a paddle. And then also on Wednesday, closing off, we have the series of the week. Notice how I said series of the week, not match of the week. Number 9, Stanford takes on number 4, Hawaii. All right, well, Stanford had a rough weekend against one Big West Conference team. I'm going to be very interested to see how Stanford does against Hawaii. That's going to be on ESPN Plus or Spectrum Hawaii. So definitely check that out. I want to look, Hawaii, they're definitely good. For being such a young team, this team is definitely on the up and up, and I think no team is going to want to face them. So Stanford's going to be in for a tough matchup, but I think Stanford can kind of hold their own with Teo Snui and Theron Brulette and Moses Wagner or Mo Swag and a little bit of and those youngins. I think Stanford could kind of hold their own against Hawaii. It's going to be young team versus young team. And if this were played at Maples Pavilion, maybe I'd give Stanford a chance, but I just think that Hawaii's going to, if I had to guess, I'd say Hawaii's going to win that one. And then Thursday, we have the Battle of Indiana, Purdue-Fort Wayne taking on Ball State. That's a fun matchup in the MIVA. McKendree at Loyola Chicago, that's another fun matchup. And then a sneaky good matchup, which most people aren't going to care about, but I kind of care about. Masters College at Vanguard. This one was a classic NAI men's volleyball match, but now Vanguard is in National Collegiate or NCAA Division 1-2 in terms of men's volleyball. So that's something to keep note of. NAI versus NCAA men's volleyball. And then Friday, we have George Mason taking on NJIT. That's a sneaky good matchup just because NJIT, while they're not the worst team, they're not the best team. They're certainly not the worst team, and they are scrappy, and they got that Jersey grit. So George Mason's got to be careful. They're not playing at their home court. They got to play in a tough place to win at in NJIT. Another big EIVA matchup, tied for number 17, Penn State taking on Harvard. All right, Penn State has got to get a win. If they can't win against Harvard or if they split, they could be in so much trouble. Harvard is definitely good as advertised. Remember, they took Hawaii to 5 sets, and they almost pulled off the win. Unfortunately, it just wasn't meant to be for the Crimson. But Harvard will be the host team. The two teams also face each other on Saturday. I think Penn State is going to be – they have to get their lick back. I mean, they've played a tough and challenging schedule. They played Lewis, and then they also played Loyola Chicago, well, vice versa. And they played UCLA and Stanford, and then they played UCLA and USC. So if Penn State did not get anything out of the matchups that they played in, I don't know what to say. And then we have UC Santa Barbara at BYU, or number 15, UC Santa Barbara at number 6, BYU. Two teams also face each other on Saturday. This is going to be a fun matchup. BYU's kind of got to get up off the mat just because Santa Barbara is no joke. Jess Bianchi is really good. Riggs Guy, I think, is flying under the radar as someone that covered him back in high school, and so on and so forth. And then we have the matchup, UCLA at Long Beach State, number 3, UCLA at number 1, Long Beach State. Rematch of last year's National Collegiate National Championship. Man, I wish I could be at this matchup. This is going to be a barn burner. It's always a barn burner when UCLA and Long Beach State face one another. And this is being played at the Pyramid. It's going to be a fun matchup. And I would say get your tickets early and expect like 5,000, maybe 6,000 in attendance. I would hope it's a sold-out thing. That would definitely grow NCAA men's volleyball and get the word out that NCAA men's volleyball exists. And then also on Friday, Stanford takes on Hawaii. Pretty much made note of that early on. And then Saturday, notable – oh, great. There it is. There's the glitch. I should have went to a commercial break, but it is what it is. Saturday, we have number 7, Loyola Chicago at number 14, Ohio State. Now, while Ohio State is a little bit on the rebuild side, you never know. I mean, Ohio State could have easily pushed UCLA to 5 this past weekend. They did beat UCLA. So I think that's the case of Ohio State being such a good team, or not as good of a team as last year, but still a talented team. But Loyola Chicago, I think they're going to get tested this weekend. I mean, McKendree, they may not be the best team, but they're scrappy as heck. They've played a tough schedule so far. And Ohio State, they've also played a tough schedule so far. Obviously, they would have liked to have played Penn State, but unfortunately, the flu bug kind of had other plans. And then CSUN Pepperdine also is another notable matchup to watch for. CSUN, I want to see them actually pull off a big upset win. One person actually did have CSUN beating SC, which I hate to say this about CSUN, but I don't think they were going to beat SC. They gave USC all that they could handle, but USC just has too much firepower. And as I will say this one time and one time only, buy stock into USC men's volleyball. They are so talented. They are so good. And this might be one of their more deeper teams they've had. Yes, it's a little on the young side with Sterling Foley, Parker Tompkinson, and Johnny Dykstra, who kind of got flipped out of the libero rotation for Austin Stewart, but I digress. But you've also got other studs like Noah Roberts stepping up. Dylan Klein is a thing. Guy Guinness, who transferred from UCLA. Caleb Blanchett, he's doing fantastic work for USC. So on and so forth. So I think for CSUN, back to their matchup against Pepperdine, this is going to be a fun matchup. I think Pepperdine, if they can't slow down Jalen Phillips, they could be on the wrong side of the score. But I will say, I think for CSUN, they are a fantastic team. I think they could challenge their way in the Big West, but I want to see them how they'll do against Pepperdine. Pepperdine, I think, is a little on the young side, but I think they are moving forward the rebuild process really fast. And Cole Hartke is the real deal. And then another notable matchup is UC Irvine at Concordia Irvine. That is such a sneaky good matchup. I mean, Concordia Irvine's schedule doesn't really do them justice, and their record doesn't do them any justice. But I will say it's always a fun little matchup between Concordia Irvine and UC Irvine. I just think that UC Irvine is just way too deep for the Golden Eagles. So, yeah, if I were in California, I would probably go to that matchup as well. I mean, the only thing I will give for Concordia Irvine is this, the only thing I'll give for Concordia Irvine is this. Concordia Irvine could be a good trap opponent for UC Irvine because next week UC Irvine plays USC, which I think could be a big matchup. And it's so easy for a team to be on the high of highs and then overlook a neighborly rival. I mean, Penn State almost kind of did that a few years ago when they had that marathon of a first set against Concordia Irvine. So don't underestimate Concordia Irvine. I mean, yeah, that was back when Concordia Irvine had Uriel Batista, but I think for Irvine, they should be fine so long as they don't underestimate Concordia Irvine. I mean, yes, it's a whole different environment. There's no challenge system, but it is what it is. And that's pretty much that for all the notable matchups from this past weekend. I mean, Sunday there's Dominican taking on Pepperdine, and then Charleston taking on Sacred Heart, but that's pretty much it. So that's going to do it for the NCAA men's volleyball notable matchups to watch for in week number 6. We will take ourselves one last commercial break. When we come back, we've got some PVF to discuss, as well as some LOVB, and maybe a little junior college from the 3C2A. So keep it locked here. You're listening to Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
What's up, New York? This is Ricky K coming at you at the NY State of Sports, a new show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Listen to me every Thursday afternoon as we bring you the latest takes on the Yankees, Mets, Jets, Giants, Knicks, Nets, Rangers, Devils, and Islanders. Plus, you get some college hoops and what's the local sports events going on in the area. It's a state that never sleeps, so why not get the opinions and sports takes that never sleep? Again, every Thursday, 2 p.m. to the NY State of Sports. We'll see you then.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy, Big Mike from Indie Sports Nation. Come hang out with me each and every Friday, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Time, where we talk things Indiana sports. We talk Colts, Pacers, Fever, India Ignite, and we dive into the college scene as well. Boilermakers, Hoosiers, Irish, Bulldogs, and every school in between. And we don't stop there. We'll sprinkle in some NHRA and cover the IndyCar Series. From the turf to the hardwood to the track, we got you covered. Come hang out with your boy, Big Mike, each and every Friday, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Indy Sports Nation, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And we are back with the final segment of Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Definitely check out our amazing shows such as Indy Sports Nation with Big Mike, as well as New York State of Sports with Ricky K. All right, but let us get into the final portion of the show. So we got to recap some Pro Volleyball Federation and LOVB. So we'll start off with the PVF first. So it was another eventful week in the PVF, as it was another fun week. But some more information. I guess this news should be noted. So now that it is the month of February, the PVF All-Star match, which will be on February 22nd, is actually going to be co-hosted by four-time Olympic medalist Shawn Johnson East, who is going to be the co-host. As we all know, she's a Olympic medalist, and she was an Olympic medalist for gymnastics. So I will say, I kind of wonder why they decided to have Shawn Johnson as a co-host. Maybe they just couldn't find anyone. Maybe she's a native of Indiana. Like, they couldn't have found anyone that knows that's like a volleyball person, like Emily Eamon or something. Like, that's my only knock of having Shawn Johnson East on as the co-host. But that's some good news right there, and I think she's going to do great. So I can't knock it all that much. So PVF Week 4 recap. So the Week 4 started on Thursday when we had the Orlando Valkyries taking on the Grand Rapids Rise, and in the end, the Rise outlasted the Valkyries in 5 sets. So this was kind of the battle of the two teams with the same exact record that was nearing the bottom, but the Rise rose to the occasion on the road, no pun intended. At least was it on the road? No, it was at Grand Rapids. I'm sorry. It was at Grand Rapids. So Grand Rapids rose to the occasion at home in 5 sets, which I thought was a crucial win for them. Erica Pritchard led the way with 21 kills. Carly Snyder added 13 kills to go along with 18 digs. Alina Ogilvy added 22 digs. Naya Scheim added 11 kills. For the Valkyries, they were led by Brittany Abercrombie, who had 17 kills. They had 5 different players with 10 or more kills. Unfortunately, it did not translate into a win. Pornpun Gudapard added 49 assists to go along with 18 digs. They also got 13 digs from Adora Ane, who had 11 kills. So my takeaway from this matchup is this. This was kind of a good win for the Rise. And don't look now, but the Rise have kind of are building up a win streak. So I thought they were going to be in the rebuild process, but I think they have kind of rebuilt themselves and they are back to their winning ways. Now, for the Valkyries, I don't know how to really say this, except I'm a little disappointed. I thought this team would be a whole lot better than what their projection was. I thought they would be at least in like second place, maybe third place. But I don't know. This team was kind of left me scratching my head and making me wonder, why is this team just not living up to its expectations? Because remember, this team was supposed to finish second in the PVF league standings, but that was just regular season. Maybe as long as they make the big dance, then a lot can happen for them. Also on Thursday, we had the Atlanta Vibe taking down the San Diego Mojo on the road in 4 sets. So unfortunately, there are no official stats, which PVF, what are you doing? But I guess my big takeaway for this match, just because I saw it, is this. The Vibe kind of needed this one just because they kind of need to prove themselves to winning on the road, and they need to cool off the Mojo. Now, the Mojo really need to win this one. I say really need to win this one just because they need to prove themselves. I mean, they did have those early impressive wins, but their schedule is going to get ever so tough going forward. And then Friday, we had the Omaha Supernovas sweeping the Columbus Fury in Omaha. Long story short, this was expected. I hate to have to really I really have to what's the word? To ride the Columbus Fury like this, but the Fury, they're in a little bit of a rebuild. They are in a place where they need to find their way back. But hopefully for their sake, the wins will be coming soon. Now Omaha, I knew they were going to take care of business. I knew that they were going to strut their stuff when it came to this matchup. Anything short of winning would have been a disappointment. They won 25-21, 25-18, and 25-17, as they didn't even have one player in double digits in kills. As Brooke Nunneveller and Reagan Cooper both led the Supernovas with 8 kills. And then for Columbus, they didn't have one player in double digits in kills, as Morgan Lewis led the way with 8 kills. That's when you know the Columbus Fury are kind of in a rebuild process. But hopefully for the Fury's sake, that first win of the season will come sooner rather than later. And then also on Friday, we had the Vegas Thrill protecting home court and taking down the Indy Ignite in 5 sets. Now, this was a big win just because the Ignite were actually in first place, and then the Thrill wound up winning another thriller. And it wasn't just a regular 5-set win. It was a reverse sweep. So long story short, the Vegas Thrill love to start out slow, but they love to pick it up. First 2 sets, the Ignite won at 25-18, 25-21. The Thrill wound up winning a semi-close third set, 25-22. Fourth set, the Thrill rolled past the Ignite, 25-12, and then they rolled past them in the 5th set, 15-9. The Thrill had another big night as they were led by Hannah Maddox and Cameron Hanna, both having 16 kills. Charity Looper added 9 kills to go along with 11 digs. Mary Schroll, who was playing libero, added 10 digs. Quite interesting. So they had an outside playing libero. Quite fascinating, if you ask me. And then Alicia Glass-Childress had 44 assists to go along with 12 digs, which I'll be talking about her in a little later. For the Indy Ignite, they were led by Nina Kahik, who had 14 kills. Lekator member Benet had a 12-12 game, 12 digs, and 12 kills. Sydney Hilly had 51 assists to go along with 15 digs. So my takeaway for the Thrill is this. This was a fantastic win by the Thrill. This was a statement win, and I think we are underestimating the Thrill here. I keep saying they've got it going on, but I think they really do have it going on. I think that there's not a whole lot of teams that could slow this team down. So I think this was very impressive by the Thrill. But for the Ignite, this is kind of one of those losses where it's just tough to win on the road. They've had a lot of success on their home court, but at the same time, they need to have a lot of success on the road because it's so easy to win at home. But winning on the road is a whole different beast, especially against a team that's good at home, being the Thrill. And then Sunday, for the first time, we had every team in action. And it kind of helps when you have an even number of teams instead of an odd number of teams. So the first matchup we had was the Omaha Supernovas taking on the Orlando Valkyries in Orlando. And after the Valkyries lost to the Rise, I wasn't thinking too much of this matchup. And then the Valkyries took the first set, and they took the second set, and I'm like, wait a second, what am I seeing here? And then they took the third set, which resulted in a sweep. Now, you're probably wondering, well, why is that a big deal? Every team gets swept. No. This was actually the first time the Omaha Supernovas actually got swept in a match. So the Orlando Valkyries went from a little bit of a losing streak and a funk to sweeping one of the more better teams in the league in Omaha. So very good win right there, as Orlando was led by Brittany Abercrombie, who had 16 kills and 12 digs. They also had Adora Ane with 13 kills and 9 digs. Pornpun Gudapard had 44 assists to go along with 8 digs. For Omaha, they were led by Reagan Cooper, who had 10 kills. Brooke Nunneveller had a little bit of a quiet night. She had 8 kills to go along with 12 digs. That's when you kind of know that the Supernovas didn't have their best match. So my takeaway for Orlando is this. They kind of needed this big-time win, especially at home. And I think this could be the type of win that gets them back on track. Now, for the Supernovas, I don't know how you get swept. I mean, it is the first time they've gotten swept, so maybe I'm just so used to not seeing them get swept so much because they have been at least taking at least one set off of every match they've played in, whether it's losing in 4, losing in 5, winning in 3, 4, or 5, so on and so forth. But yeah, it's a little surprising to see the Supernovas on the wrong side of the sweep. So gotta give props to the Valkyries. They played a great game. And then next matchup we had was the Grand Rapids Rise taking on the San Diego Mojo, where the Rise swept the Mojo. Don't look now, but the Rise have won 4 straight after starting 0-3. So big ups to the Rise as they were led by Naya Shine, who had 14 kills. Erica Pritchard chipped in 10 kills. Shine also chipped in 11 digs as well. So good job to the Rise on that. The Mojo were led by Kendra Dalkey, who had 12 kills. And Maya Tabron added 10 kills. So the Mojo are in a little bit of a funk, which this seems to be kind of the norm when it comes to this team. They always start slow, but then they build a winning streak, and then they have a little bit of a funk, but then they're able to snap out of said funk. Next up, we had the Indy Ignite hosting the Columbus Fury, where the Ignite turned on the heat and took down the Columbus Fury in straight sets. This was, I'm just going to get my takeaway out of the way right here and then. The Fury are still in a little bit of a rebuild. You've heard me say it countless times. This is not the same Columbus team, and hopefully for their sake, they can't get the win. Abby Walker led the way with 8 kills, and they also got 6 kills from Megan Courtney Lush and Kaylee Ramelsberg. But for the Ignite, they were led by Lecator member Benet, who had 13 kills and 11 digs. Nina Kahek added 11 kills. So a nice bounce back win for the Ignite. They kind of needed it. So good on them. And then the Vegas Thrill took on the Atlanta Vibe to close off the PVF Sunday. And the Thrill took down the Vibe on the road, mind you, in 4 sets. And for the first time this season, the Thrill actually wound up winning a first set. In all the matches that the Thrill have played in, the Thrill have actually lost every first set. But this was kind of a good change of pace, winning the first set, which was in narrow fashion along with the second set. Third set went to the Vibe in fairly good fashion, but then the Thrill didn't need a 5th set, and they wound up taking the 4th set in 25-19, winning the match in 4. So the Thrill were led by Hannah Maddox, who had 16 kills. Cameron Hanna added 10 kills. Their serving was on point. Their serving was quite tough as they got 3 aces from Maddox, 2 aces from Alicia Glass-Childress, who had maybe the most craziest play. So it was a scramble play, and Alicia Glass-Childress kept the ball alive, and she managed to pull off a set on her backside. And then eventually the Thrill got the kill, and as the Vibe just did not see that coming. So that was a great, amazing play. Just look up Alicia Glass-Childress Vegas Thrill set play. It'll probably be on the Thrill's highlight reel or the PVF highlight reel. Charity Looper also had 9 kills, and she had a service ace. So good job to the Thrill. I know they can win on the road or at home, but winning on the road, that is big right there, and that could go a long way. And you got to remember, this is the Thrill team that finished last along with the Fury and the Valkyries, but now they've gone from worst to first, which I thought was very good. So looking at the standings going into this week, we have the Thrill in first place at 6-2, Indy Ignite at 4-2 in second place, Atlanta Vibe at 4-3, Grand Rapids Rise at 4-3. Like I said, they've won 4 straight. The Omaha Supernovas are also at 4-3. The Orlando Valkyries and San Diego Mojo are both at 3-4, and then the Columbus Fury are bringing up the rear at 0-7. So that is that right there. So now let's jump on into the PVF Week 5 preview. So Thursday, we've got the Omaha Supernovas taking on the Indy Ignite. There it is. There is the matchup that I was waiting for. This is a big test for the Indy Ignite. I know they can beat the Columbus Fury, but I also want to see them actually beating a talented team like the Omaha Supernovas. And for the Supernovas, it is really weird to see the Supernovas just not struggling, but just not like in the top 2, top 3. It just feels really odd. But the Supernovas can get themselves right with a win on the road against the Indy Ignite. It's kind of going to be, it could be a little bit of a revenge match for Sydney Hilly, who played on the Omaha Supernovas last year and then left for the Indy Ignite. So I imagine it's going to be a big match for Hilly, who was named the PVF most outstanding player. So we shall see. Then also on Thursday, we have the Southern Battle, Orlando Valkyries taking on the Atlanta Vibe. All right, for the Valkyries, they got their one win to get them back on the winning side of things. Now they got to keep it up because the Vibe are also still in search of a longer win streak. But I think this is going to be a big test for both of these teams. Both of these teams are not meeting the expectations. So this is the battle of the two teams that should be meeting expectations but are looking to try to get back on track. Then Friday, we have the Grand Rapids Rise at the Columbus Fury. Well, it's kind of tough to say, but this might be the best chance for the Fury to win a match. I feel the Fury definitely have a good shot at winning this, but the Rise have won 4 straight. And if the Rise continue to play the same volleyball that they've been playing the past 4 matches, they're not going to be slowing down for anybody. So the Fury could be in for another long matchup, but if anything, hopefully for their sake, they can make it competitive or they can somehow sneak away with the win. And then also on Friday, we have the West Coast Showdown, the Vegas Spill taking on the San Diego Mojo. I know that Vegas isn't in, like, actual West Coast, but you know what I mean. It's the two most Pacific-ish type of teams out there. So, yeah, for the Mojo, they're home. They're taking on a red-hot Thrill team. I want to see the Mojo actually perform really well. They are going to get a big challenge in the Thrill. They know this is kind of their rival, so the Mojo really have to step up, and they really have to show what they're truly made of. And then Saturday closes off the week as smart for the PVF to not schedule any PVF matches on Super Bowl Sunday. They're using their noodles. But Saturday, we have the Indy Ignite at the Orlando Valkyries. All right. Another big week for the Ignite and another huge week for the Valkyries. I want to see the Ignite continue their winning ways, but I also want to see the Valkyries continue to build their win streak. I mean, winning against Omaha was great and all, and they do get to play at home against Indy, but I really want to see them step up because this could make or break their chances of possibly moving up in the standings. And for the Indy Ignite, this could make or break their chances of moving up in the standings to try to keep up with the Vegas Thrill. And then also on Saturday to close off the week, we have the Omaha Supernovas at the Atlanta Vibe. It's always a fun matchup between the Supernovas and the Vibe. Always going to be a barn burner. I want to see Omaha have themselves a big week just because I think Omaha losing to the Valkyries just does not do them any justice. I think it just really just does not – it doesn't do them any justice, and it also just does not benefit – it doesn't really like describe their season or doesn't define their season because there's still lots of volleyball that needs to be played. But Omaha, I feel, will need to step it up. I mean, maybe they're still distracted by this whole MLV news, but I know they said they're not distracted by it, but you never know. I mean, some try to like mask the pain and whatnot, but I digress. All right, but that is that for the PVF Week 5 preview. It's going to be another fun week, and I'm excited for it. So there is that. So let's jump on into some LOVB. So LOVB was in week 4. So week 4, it got started with Houston sweeping Madison. Now, Houston sweeping Madison wasn't all that surprising. Madison losing on its home floor was a little surprising. And Madison is just on that struggle bus. They really got to hop off that struggle bus ASAP because they're falling further and further back in the standings. And then on Friday, the Weekend with Love, or LOVB, went to Atlanta at Gateway Center Arena, where LOVB Atlanta took down Real Salt Lake in straight sets. This isn't overly surprising just because Atlanta was amongst some of the top teams, and this could have been a trap game for Atlanta, but they were able to pull off the win and get everything squared away on their part. They didn't look ahead to Omaha, which was very smart on their behalf. So good job to them. Then on Saturday, we had Salt Lake taking on Austin at Gateway Center Arena. And Salt Lake was able to get their lick back and take down Austin in 5. I was very surprised that LOVB Salt Lake was able to get the win just because they had so little time of rest. And the fact that they were able to win was very impressive. So tough loss for Austin. Could have gone either way, but thankfully for Salt Lake, they still had that adrenaline in them. And this was the true match of the week. This was the match of the week from LOVB. We had Atlanta hosting Omaha. And to the impressiveness in my mind, Atlanta took down Omaha by defending home court and by winning in 4 sets. And with that win, there's now a new leaderboard in the LOVB standings, and that just so happens to be Atlanta. Atlanta is 4-2, as their next opponents are real LOVB Salt Lake and LOVB Madison. And LOVB's won 4 straight matches after dropping their season opener against Salt Lake. So great job to LOVB turning the ship around after getting off to a little bit of a slow start. Yes, they haven't played the same number of matches as Salt Lake and Madison, but you can only play the teams on your schedule. Now for LOVB Omaha, they've now lost 2 straight, but I don't think they should be overly concerned all that much. I mean, sometimes it just happens in waves. Sometimes you start off hot and then you sometimes cool down. So I think for Omaha, they just got to hit the reset button. They kind of have another big matchup. They have another big week altogether, as they've got Salt Lake and Houston, which is right on their coattails. And by right on their coattails for Houston, I mean tied with them for second place. And then LOVB Salt Lake, who's played one more match than Omaha and Houston, they are a half a game behind both those teams. So that's something to keep note of. And then LOVB Austin is 2-3, and then LOVB Madison is bringing up the rear at 1-5. So tough tamale for Madison, but there's still plenty of volleyball that needs to be played. So week 5 preview. So week 5 starts off with LOVB Houston taking on LOVB Austin at the HEB Center at Cedar Park. So it's the Battle of Texas right here, and I think this is going to be a very fun matchup. So I can't wait to see what Houston and Austin have in store for us. These are definite rivals right here, and I expect nothing to be held back. And then Friday, we have Atlanta taking on Salt Lake. The weekend with LOVB, or the weekend with Love, heads to Salt Lake at the Maverick Center. So Atlanta is going to really – I can see them winning this matchup, but at the same time, Salt Lake is definitely going to be a tough nut to crack, especially since they're at home. And then this would be a great weekend for Salt Lake to go 2-0. But I will also just say – Salt Lake, it has a huge test this week. They've got the top 2 teams from LOVB, and I hope for Salt Lake's sake that they can continue their winning ways, just because if they want to move up in the standings, they're going to have to take down some of the big teams. But, as I also mentioned, you can only play the teams that are currently on your schedule, and these are the 2 teams they're going to have to play. So I want to see Salt Lake at least going 1-1. If they can go 1-1, awesome. If they can't, then they're just going to have to keep trying to climb up the ladder. So that's on Friday. Saturday, we have Madison taking on Atlanta. So it's the best team in the league versus the worst team in the league, being Atlanta the best and Madison the worst. All Madison can do is go up from here. They've been competitive, and they have talent. It's just that Atlanta has just been playing on a new level. And I think if Atlanta continues their winning ways like this, they could be the one that's hoisting the championship at the end of the season. Now, for Madison, their season is not over by any means, but this is going to be one tough matchup for them, and I hope for their sake they can at least make it competitive. And then closing off week 5, we have Omaha taking on Salt Lake at Maverick Center. Again, I want to see Omaha get up off the mat. They've lost 2 straight. I want to see them actually perform on their level. Salt Lake has won one match in being a thriller against Austin. So I hope for Salt Lake's sake they do have another win in them. They're going to need it because if they want to move up in the standings, they're going to have to take down some of the better teams in the league. So we'll see what happens, and we'll see if Salt Lake can continue their winning ways or if they will stumble across some of the bigger teams. So that is that right there. I guess I should make note of this is that thankfully their matches are on – LOVB doesn't play on Sunday because, again, Super Bowl Sunday. But next week, LOVB will have the LOVB Classic in Kansas City. So you're probably wondering, well, why are they playing in Kansas City when they don't have a team in Kansas City? Easy. because that's where the NCAA Women's Volleyball National Championship is going to be held. No, it's not going to be held in Kansas City because the Chiefs are in the Super Bowl. But that's actually a great place to market the brand of NCAA women's volleyball and to market women's volleyball in general in Kansas City, just because that's where the NCAA National Championship in women's volleyball is going to be held at. So very smart decision-making by LOVB. So there you have it right there. That is pretty much that in terms of LOVB. I think we're in for another exciting week, and I can't wait to see what this LOVB Classic is because we don't have teams announced for the Valentine's Day weekend. But that's for next week. All right, this show has actually reached 90 minutes, so I guess I'll just make quick note of some 3C2A men's volleyball, and then I'll send you all on your way. So OCC, or Orange Coast College, kicked off its season with a 3-set win over Santa Barbara City. Irvine Valley went 2-0. Golden West went 2-0. Long Beach City went 0-2. So another rough start for the Vikings, but I'm sure they're going to be ready by the time conference play kicks off. San Diego Mesa is another team to watch for. They went 2-0, taking down Long Beach City and Santa Monica. Fullerton went 2-0, but I'm not sold on them just yet. Don't get me wrong. I am a huge fan of Eddie Rapp, or Ed Rapp, however you want to call him. I think he's an amazing coach. But at the same time, I want to see them beat somebody that's really good, like OCC or Golden West or IBC, even though those teams don't play in the same conference as Fullerton. But, yeah, that's pretty much that for your rundown when it comes to 3C2A men's volleyball. I saw OCC's matchup against Santa Barbara via a live stream on courtesy of OCC. So you have that right there. This week should be a little bit more, I wouldn't say more exciting, just because I think that for the 3C2A men's volleyball, there's not as many teams as there are in 3C2A women's volleyball, but there should be more notable matchups starting on Tuesday. So the season actually began on the not last week, but the previous Friday, which I didn't even know there was a matchup that was played. It was Long Beach City and San Diego Miramar. So they actually played one another on the 24th, and Miramar actually came away with the 4-set win over Long Beach City, which I don't think anybody expected. But for this week, in terms of 3C2A men's volleyball, we have some notable matches. We have Long Beach City and Grossmont on Tuesday. And then Wednesday, we have Santa Barbara taking on Irvine Valley. That's going to be a good matchup. And then we have Moore Park taking on Golden West, which that's a rematch of last year's quarterfinal matchup in the state tournament. Then we have Santiago Canyon taking on Fullerton, two former conference teams facing one another. Then we have OCC taking on El Camino. That should kind of be a fun matchup. I think El Camino is still in that rebuild stage, and OCC still looks as good as advertised, but we shall see. We have Santa Monica taking on Palomar. Palomar, I think, can be good, but can they be good enough to take down some of the better teams? And then Friday, we have Irvine Valley at Moore Park. That's a good matchup right there. OCC hosts Fullerton. Golden West plays at Santa Barbara. That's going to be a good road test for the Rustlers. Santa Monica hosts Grossmont. Santiago Canyon plays at El Camino. And then Long Beach City hosts Palomar. And then Saturday, we have a doubleheader. We have San Diego Mesa taking on LA Pierce. And then San Diego Miramar taking on LA Pierce. And then we have San Diego Miramar taking on Antelope Valley. And then San Diego Mesa taking on Antelope Valley. So kind of a little of a crossover between the LA teams taking on the San Diego teams. So that's kind of cool right there. And then that's going to pretty much do it for the 3C2A men's volleyball matches for this week. Again, I'm still in Texas, so hopefully I will be able to attend a few matches here and there, like some Golden West matches and some OCC matches. So time will tell. But that is going to do it for the 3C2A in men's volleyball. And ladies and gentlemen, despite this long show, that's going to do it for this week's episode of Set Point. I know I went past 90 minutes, and I know that has been not really like me, but we had so much to talk about in terms of John Cook retiring and Danny Busman-Kelly taking over as Nebraska's head coach, and Dan Meskey taking over as Louisville's women's volleyball head coach, and then all the amazing matches from NCAA men's volleyball. And then soon we're going to be talking some NCAA beach volleyball. So a lot of volleyball that's going to be happening. I swear I'm going to try to shrink this down. This will never happen again. This will never see me talking for 90 minutes regarding volleyball. But I promise you all, this should be down to the standard 85-minute show or 75-minute. But that's going to do it for this week's episode of Set Point. Enjoy Super Bowl Sunday. Let's try to continue to grow NCAA men's volleyball just because I still find it ridiculous that NCAA men's volleyball still gets zero love. And best believe, as long as my heart is pumping, I'm going to be continuing to grow NCAA men's volleyball, even though, unfortunately, I'm not going to be going to Long Beach State's matchup against UCLA, but I digress. But until then, have a great rest of the week. Enjoy all the volleyball action, whether it's collegiate or the pros. And I'll see you Friday for the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Have a great week, everybody. Peace.